Welcome back to our C programming challenges from 0 to Pro series. In the last video, we solved the classical hello world problem. Now it's time to move a step further by learning how to take different types of inputs in C: a character, a word, and a full sentence. This is the problem breakdown. The problem is simply asking us to read a single character, to read a string, which means a single word with no spaces, and then to read a full sentence, which may include spaces. So you will need this for your program when you want to prompt the user to do certain things, certain actions. You have to know how to print a sentence. You have to know how to read a sentence. You have to know how to read a string as well as a character. Okay. So the key concept here is using scanf. Okay. It's all about input handling in C. If you want to read a character in C, you use the %C symbol. If you want to read a string, use %S. If you want to read a line, a full sentence, use this % with all this thing. You don't have to know this off head, okay? Because it will always be available on the internet, but you just have to know when you're supposed to use it. So once again, use %C when you want to take in a character, %S when you want to read a string, and this when you want to read in a line. Okay, so let's move on with the program. Let's write the code for the program. So what the problem is asking us to do is to first take a character, then take the string, then take the sentence, and then print all the 3 lines out. The first line should print the character, second line should print the string, third line print the sentence. So what's the very first thing we have to do? Very first thing we have to do is to create our After creating our variables, the next thing we do is to read the input. Then after reading the input, the next thing to do, or the last thing to do, is to print out the input. So let's start with the first one. We are going to create, first of all, a character. Now, a character is a data type, a type of data, and we declare it using the char keyword. Okay, so our character is going to be equal to character 1. Then the next thing we'll do is to create a variable that will store a string. Now, a string is simply a collection of characters. So because of that, to create a string variable in C, you create an array, and this is how you do it. The number that goes in here is the size of the array, which will be the number of characters that we can store, the maximum number of characters we can store in this string. Then we'll create our sentence. Our sentence will also be a string, will be created as a string. But let's give the sentence more characters. So let's make it 600. Okay. Now the next thing we do is read the input. So as I said, to read a character is %C. To read a string, you use %S. To read the sentence, we use this. So let's do that. And remember, for scanf, you always have to bring the ampersand before the name of the variable you store the values. Don't forget the ampersand. So now that we've read it, all we have to do now is to print it out. Okay. And also, one thing I didn't mention, when it comes to arrays, right, it's not necessary to bring the ampersand. But when it comes to variables like this, you have to bring it. Let's continue. So we are going to use printf to print all these values. And we realize it's the same, the consistent format specifiers. For string, we use %s. For character, we use %d. But now for string, when you want to print a sentence, you can just use %f, and it will work perfect. So that is it. Let's test it out. We're getting the wrong answer because look at what we are outputting. So the problem is with this. Probably we didn't allocate enough space for the characters. One thing that you must know is that if you don't allocate enough space for your string, you are going to have this kind of error. So now you realize they said we should create for the sentence, we should use max length. So we are supposed to use max length as the size of the sentence. Okay. Now, max length is not defined. So we will have to define max length. Let me do that here. You can use #define. It's called a preprocessor command, and for now, you don't have to understand it. Just follow along. It will make sense. Let's try this out. I'm being told here also that the string for S and SEN will have fewer than 100 characters. So I think we should limit the max length to 100. That's probably what's causing the issue. Okay, that's not it. So let me see. Now, this is a problem that a lot of beginners will run into, but I'm going to demystify it here. So now, one thing about scanf, okay, is that when you use it and it's reading the input, after every input, scanf will stop reading once you press enter, right? Now, what happens is that when you press enter is actually a character called the new line character. But the new line character doesn't get read. Okay, it doesn't get read into your variable. Your variable will only store everything you entered up to the new line character. So scanf will leave the new line character within something we call a buffer. Okay, so scanf is reading from a buffer. Now when it leaves the new line within the buffer, When the next scanf comes, okay, it also reads and then leaves the new line character within the buffer. Okay, so that's what's happening here. So when this scanf works, we have a new line character. The new line character doesn't get removed or doesn't get consumed, and then you have it within the buffer. When you come to the string, the same thing occurs. The new line character does it. So you realize that the string and the character gets printed normally, but the sentence has an issue. Why? Because the sentence is made up of multiple strings. So because of that, what we need to do is to get rid of the new line characters in order to make this program work perfectly. So the simplest way of doing this is to just consume the new line character within the buffer, and we can use the getChar function. What it does is that it gets the character. So we are saying that there's a character within the buffer. We want to make sure the buffer is free and empty. So getChar goes into the buffer and gets whatever character it sees, which should be the new line character. So once that happens, so let me comment this as clean the buffer. Once getChar runs, we'll have everything cleaned out, and that is it. This is just one way to solve it though. Another way to solve this is to place a space in front of this. So what that does is it tells scanf, okay, to skip any white space. When we say white space, a new line is an example of a white space character. So this tells this scanf function, right, with all these parameters, what it is saying is that when you get to the standard input buffer, skip any new line, skip any white space before you start taking in the input. So when we run that, it should also work, and you see it works. So that is what we have for this video. I know it got a bit longer, but it's worth it to understand this concept. That's it for today, and in the next video, we'll continue building up with other challenge and practice working with numbers. Thank you.